Welcome to Ælementz, your daily dose of quick insights to strengthen your knowledge. Today, we're talking about the Crusades, a series of events that shaped history, blending religion, politics, and culture in ways that still resonate today. What were the Crusades? The Crusades were a series of military campaigns during the medieval period, primarily between the 11th and 13th centuries. They were launched by European Christians with the goal of reclaiming Jerusalem and other holy sites in the Middle East, which were under Muslim control. These campaigns were framed as religious pilgrimages, but were also motivated by political, economic, and social factors. The Crusades weren't just one event. There were several, each with its own outcomes and challenges. They had a profound impact on the people who participated and the regions they affected, creating both conflict and cultural exchange. What is the history of the Crusades? The First Crusade began in 1096, after Pope Urban II called on Christians to reclaim the Holy Land, promising spiritual rewards to those who joined. Many people answered the call, from knights and nobles seeking adventure or wealth, to peasants looking for a new life or salvation. By 1199, the Crusaders captured Jerusalem in a bloody siege, establishing several small Christian-controlled states in the region. However, these gains didn't last. Over the next 2 centuries, there were more Crusades as Muslims, led by figures like Saladin, recaptured Jerusalem and other territories. The Third Crusade, 1189 to 1192, is perhaps the most famous, featuring Richard the Lionheart of England and his legendary battles against Saladin. Although Richard couldn't retake Jerusalem, the two leaders agreed on a truce that allowed Christian pilgrims to visit the city. The later Crusades were less successful, with the Fourth Crusade, 1202 to 1204, even attacking the Christian city of Constantinople instead of the Holy Land. By the end of the 13th century, the Crusaders had lost most of their territories, and the era of large-scale crusading came to an end. Why were the Crusades fought? The Crusades were initiated primarily as religious wars to reclaim Jerusalem and the Holy Land, considered sacred to Christians, from Muslim control. However, beneath this religious motivation lay political, economic, and social drivers. Many European nobles saw the Crusades as an opportunity to gain land, wealth, and power in regions outside Europe. Younger sons of nobles, who typically wouldn't inherit family estates, joined to carve out fortunes of their own. Merchants, especially those from cities like Venice and Genoa, supported the Crusades because they hoped to expand trade routes and access goods like spices and silk from the East. For example, during the Fourth Crusade, Venetian merchants redirected the campaign to attack Constantinople, a wealthy Christian city, rather than the Holy Land, to eliminate a trade rival and gain commercial advantage. Who were the key figures in the Crusades? Several historical figures played critical roles in the Crusades. Pope Urban II, who called for the First Crusade in 1095 at the Council of Clermont, rallied Christians with promises of spiritual rewards. He declared that those who joined would have their sins forgiven. On the Muslim side, Saladin emerged as a unifying leader, celebrated for retaking Jerusalem in 1187 after the Battle of Hattin. His leadership was marked by chivalry. For example, when Richard the Lionheart fell ill during the Third Crusade, Saladin sent him fruit and snow to cool his fever. Richard the Lionheart himself became a legendary figure in Europe for his courage and skill in battle, even though he ultimately failed to recapture Jerusalem. He negotiated a truce with Saladin, allowing Christian pilgrims to visit the city peacefully. Another important figure is Eleanor of Aquitaine, Richard's mother, who helped raise funds and support for the Crusades, showing how even women in power played significant roles. Did the Crusades achieve their goals? The Crusades partially succeeded in the short term but failed in the long term. The First Crusade, 1096 to 1099, was the most successful, resulting in the capture of Jerusalem and the establishment of several Crusader states, such as the Kingdom of Jerusalem and the Principality of Antioch. However, maintaining these territories proved difficult. Over time, Muslim forces regrouped and reclaimed much of the land. By the end of the Crusades in 1291, the last Crusader stronghold in Acre had fallen. While the Crusades didn't achieve their religious or territorial goals, they did have lasting consequences. They opened up Europe to Eastern goods, ideas, and technologies, influencing trade, medicine, and even architecture. For example, Gothic castle designs in Europe were inspired by the fortifications Crusaders saw in the Middle East. What impact did the Crusades have on the modern world? The Crusades had a profound impact that extended far beyond their time. They spurred economic growth by increasing demand for Eastern goods like spices, textiles, and glass, leading to the rise of wealthy trading cities like Venice and Florence. In terms of knowledge, Crusaders brought back advanced medical and scientific techniques from the Islamic world, which influenced European medicine and scholarship. For instance, European doctors adopted surgical practices and herbal remedies they encountered in the Middle East. Politically, the Crusades weakened feudalism in Europe as many nobles sold land or borrowed money to fund their journeys, increasing the power of kings and centralized governments. However, they also deepened tensions between Christians and Muslims, as well as between Eastern Orthodox and Western Catholic Christians, divisions that are still evident in some respects today. Interesting facts about the Crusades. The Children's Crusade, 1212. This tragic event involved thousands of young people, inspired by visions of reclaiming the Holy Land through their innocence and faith. While the exact details are debated by historians, the story highlights the emotional and spiritual fervor of the time. Many of these children never made it to Jerusalem. Some were sold into slavery, while others perished on the journey due to hunger and harsh conditions. It's a somber reminder of how deeply the idea of the Crusades penetrated society, even affecting children. Cultural exchange and new goods. The Crusades weren't just about conflict. They facilitated cultural exchange between Europe and the Middle East. Crusaders brought back goods like sugar, apricots, and spices such as cinnamon and pepper, which transformed European cuisine. They also learned about advanced irrigation techniques, helping to improve agriculture back home. Architectural ideas also crossed borders. The pointed arches and ribbed vaults of Gothic cathedrals in Europe were influenced by Islamic architecture seen by Crusaders in places like Syria. Military innovations. The Crusades introduced new military technologies to Europe. For example, the crossbow became more widely used after being deployed during the Crusades. Crusaders also adopted techniques for building stronger and more defensible castles. The concentric castle design, with multiple layers of walls, was inspired by fortifications in the Holy Land, like those at Crac des Chevaliers. The word crusade today. The term originally referred to the medieval campaigns, but is now used metaphorically to describe a determined effort to achieve a goal. For example, people might describe a movement for social justice or environmental change as a crusade. This broader usage shows how the historical legacy of the Crusades has evolved over time. The Crusades were a complex mix of faith, ambition, and conflict that left a lasting mark on history. What do you think about the Crusades? Were they a necessary struggle for faith, or did they cause more harm than good? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for being here. If you find this helpful, consider subscribing. More content is on the way, and I hope to see you again.